Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organizations. Each and every episode, we sit down with experts from various fields from around the world, just like you're grabbing a coffee with them, to dive into real, practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So go grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, here's today's big question. How do you build trust with clients, team members, or really an audience in a noisy, skeptical world? I mean, it seems like every time you open up LinkedIn or YouTube or your computer, your phone, there are more videos all over the place. Well, the answer is you've got to learn how to communicate with clarity, empathy, and increasingly with video. You've got to show up in all of those places, but you've got to do it in a way that people will listen. Well, today's guest on the Speak with People podcast is Tim Bradley, founder of Pennant Video. He's helped big name brands like Cisco, Hitachi humanize their message, clarify their story, connect through his signature framework, the video marketing trifecta. Can't wait to get into that. Loved connecting with him. I followed him online and is so grateful that we could sit down for this interview. Tim, welcome to the Speak with People podcast.
And thank you so much. I'm excited to get into this too. I think your the audience is going to get a kick out of this one.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, before we hop in, could you just maybe give us a little bit of your story, who you are, what you do, what's kind of got you to this place?
Yeah, sure. So I described myself as that like intrapreneur at my former agency. I was there for 12 years, heading up like a small creative department that became a larger creative department, largely focused on all things sort of rich media, so video and live podcasts, right? But video has really been sort of the medium for me since I was little, right? Like my dad, I was fortunate to have like his access to his like VHS camera, like the big clunky thing that we all had in the 90s.
Yes.
But so yeah, just kind of the medium and the power of storytelling and visuals and just sort of the complexity, the creative, right, is just it's the thing that's got me out of bed every day, right? So, but yeah, that entrepreneur, just my dad was a solopreneur. My mom ran a bed and breakfast. So that like entrepreneurship was just sort of like born and bred in that way. And yeah, just sort of at the long and the short is always aspired to have my own agency, right? So Pennant was born a couple of years ago with this really tight focus on middle of the funnel mastery, right? For our brands, our brand partners that we work with, and we do everything from script to screen with motion design and live action production and sort of everything in between. But that's the day to day. I love doing these types of things too, and helping other entrepreneurs and leaders show up in their sort of best way, best selves with a video first mindset, a founder first mindset, an audience first mindset. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I mean, so much gold already. And just at the end there, as you talked about video first, audience first, I think for so many communicators, whether they're standing on a stage, they're doing a Zoom training, they're filming a video, sometimes, and I've been communicating a long time, I've been in the category where it's me first and not the audience first. Why do you think even if we've been doing this forever, we sometimes escape back into that world?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's comfort zone, right? Where it's like, well, I know how to talk about myself and what I love to do and my passion, and that's gonna bleed through and that'll resonate. And while that's like largely true, like that the person receiving on the receiving end has their own aspirations and desires and commitments, right? So like that what's in it for me mentality. So like always putting your best foot forward with your audience's like needs and desires in mind is gonna help instill your trust with them, build a sense of shared belief, right? And just make for really just a more savvy buyer that's ready. Like when they're ready to buy, they're going to position you and put you at the front of the line.
Wow. I love that. Go back to your parents for a second
Sure.
because it's so fascinating. I guess we didn't talk about this offline, but do you have kids or not?
I do. Yeah. My son is 6 and my daughter is 9. Yep.
So it's interesting now as parents, thinking back to our childhood, just learning the entrepreneurial ways from your parents. Did you grow up thinking, that you'll go to a job someday, and or did you just kind of have that as a kid because your parents modeled it? You just kind of had that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
start my own thing. I'll
It
do.
was definitely something that, you know, in hindsight, I took a lot of pride in, right? Where it's like, my dad celebrated his, like, 40th anniversary of his business, and my mom, like, the 30th anniversary of the bed and breakfast. I was just like, this is really powerful and unique, and, like, it wasn't ever something that they, like, uh pushed or like, infused into my brothers and me, but just kind of like, just by nature, in that way. In fact, when I told my mom that I was gonna make the leap, she was like, "Oh, honey," was like her first like words out of her mouth. So it's like that stuck with me in a good way. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of that. But just a really quick anecdote is my son, he's the most curious, like, little 6-year-old, right? And he asked me, like, point blank, like, I was making pancakes one Saturday or something, and he's like, "Dad, how do I become a boss?" And I was like, "Well, of course, it's, like, the thing that a 6-year-old would say, right?" So, anyway,
Right.
I'm very, like, I'm reflective of my childhood, and, of course, now when you're trying to parent, in this day and age where it's like they're always asking for the phone to shoot videos and all this stuff, which I, like, wanna foster, but it's
Uh
also like,
huh.
can you also just go, like, run in the grass and, like, kick a ball or something? So, it's a
Right.
balance.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, especially growing up with, the old, VHS tape and how easy it is. What do you think from a storyteller? I mean, you're in the industry, you're a practitioner. Is there a part of you that's like, oh, I miss the old days of having to cut and do all this? Or are you just like, bring on the technology? This is so exciting.
Uh, it's a healthy dose of both, which is a soft answer, but for me, it's like, you know, the kids, they can just fire up the TV and get on demand whatever they want on whatever, Netflix, Disney Plus, like all that. So it's sort of the on demandness of culture right now is hard to stomach all the time, right? And it's like, when I'm not sure if we'll get into AI specifically on this podcast, but like just the speed at which all of this is happening is like in some ways and shapes exciting or whatever, but it's also like, we're losing a lot when it comes to sort of craft and like, going through the motions that shape a well-rounded person with intention and care, right? So it's like trying to balance that, with my kids' excitement for like discovery, right? With like, yeah, but slow down and make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, is going to be the constant.
Oof, boy, yeah. It is interesting. We used to live in central Michigan, middle of nowhere. Grew up in the city, Detroit, then moved to central Michigan. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Deer and turkey, and but we had Amish neighbors. And so one day I'm driving with two of my boys when they were about your boy's age, and we pass an Amish buggy, and it's the dad like chewing on a piece of straw, with his horse, and he's just coming down, and two sons about my boy's age. And one of my boys said, "Boy, I feel so sorry for those kids. They don't have Nintendo, they don't have." And my other son, the more introspective, goes, "I bet they feel sorry for us. We're always rushed. We're always running around from one thing to another." And I was like,
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like, you must have just been like, I'm just gonna listen to this. Like,
"Yes,
let's see how this plays out. That's so cool.
yes." And then the storyteller in me was like, "Could you say that one more time? I'm gonna
Yeah,
get my
yeah,
phone
yeah,
out."
I know. It is like, the nature of the day to day now. I'm like, I'm just recording everything all the time. And that comment from my son, but of course my knee jerk was like, oh, I wish I had that recorded, right? But I'm like, but also I think it's going to stick with me longer because I don't have it like just stuffed away in a library or a hard drive or cloud space somewhere, right? So there's something in that too.
I'm Gen X. I think many of us Gen Xers, when Facebook came onto the scene, we went crazy and we Facebooked about our kids every second of the day.
Oh
And
yeah.
my kids are now 25, 22, 21, 17, and 11. And the older ones are just they're done. They're like, "Dad, we don't need you to post about us. We're just, we're okay." And then you have the very flip side. I watch some influencers who are literally just filming themselves getting ready in the morning or going to work or working out. I'm like, this is fascinating. So with that rise of all of that, you as a storyteller, you in the video world, why do you believe video is the most powerful communication tool available? Or maybe it's not, but or part of it, but speak to us about how powerful it is as a tool.
Yeah, I mean, the closer you can get to conversation, the better you're gonna be in any sort of discourse you have in life, right? So when you can't have that one-on-one or one to a small group or whatever, like that communication, you look to the next best set of things, right? In your sort of communication quiver, right? And so video is as close as that to that line as you can get, right? Like before you cross over. So what I mean by that is you're infusing tone, message, style, sentiment, like visual, like all the identity, right? Like there's just so many facets and layers of awesome complexity all like sandwiched together into this like, I don't know, rich sandwich or hamburger or something. I'm riffing here on this analogy, but like
I love
that
it.
that sweet bite, right, is what's really cool about it. And just really powerful, right? It's like you have your audiences ideally their attention, their engagement, but then opportunity to further the conversation to keep them going in their sort of like their journey with you, right? And then it's also very powerful from just like a tool set and asset standpoint, where it's like if you lead with the most complex medium of video, that video first sort of mentality, there's such a cascading or ripple effect across your channels with design and sound bites and other assets and ways to just like infuse the sense of like identity and mission into your ecosystem, right? If you're a brand in that way. So yeah, it's super powerful. I also think the reverse to that is like, or the objection to it is like, where do I begin? It's like I want it to do everything, but like, well, like anything, you can only take one small bite at a time, right? Like you can only communicate one message very clearly at a time, like especially in what we just described, this day and age of attention spans, right? So to lead with sort of clarity and care and empathy for that audience is mission critical.
Wow. Wow, I love that. Okay, so speak to the leader for a second because I want to dive into some nuts and bolts here in a second. But speak to the leader who is already thinking, "Yeah, but what am I going to say? Why should I utilize video? Why should I even try?"
Why should you try? Well, because it's the preferred medium by audiences everywhere. Full stop. That said, I totally
Mic drop.
understand that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, just the data within that speaks for itself, but it's just so much like qualitative too, right? Like just in your daily life, the things that tend to resonate most from your online experience is video, right? So leading with that, as sort of challenging as it is, either creatively or logistically or financially, like just taking those steps to meet the audience in the medium they prefer is such a great way to start trust.
Oof, I love it. Okay, so you have this strategy called the video marketing trifecta. How do each kind of piece help you build trust with your audience?
Yeah, for sure. So, where we exist with the trifecta, and the reason why we believe in it so strongly is that like you've put tremendous effort at sort of the top of your funnel to like sell the proverbial click, right? Like you've done your SEO, you've done your ad buys, you've done whatever it is, the word of mouth, the trade shows, etc., to like get people to arrive at your site, right? Now they're curious. Like you got to pull them through and let them discover like what it is that you're offering them, like how you support their mission or their professional ambitions, right? So this trifecta is a framework to help do that in three segments: the anthem video, the explainer video, and the endorsement video. And I'll talk through each of those as succinctly as I can, and then of course ask questions. So The anthem expresses your why you exist, why you're different from your competition, why your audience should care, right? Like that that 60-second really tight leading with emotion, leading with heart type of piece that gives folks reasons to start to believe in you, right? And that of course can be constructed in a number of different ways, but just like that sentiment of why to help you differentiate from your competition in the eyes of your audience is the point of that one. The other side of that coin really is the explainer video, right? Like the thing that is like very truly meant to express your what you do and how you do it, right? With clarity, with a little bit of entertainment, edutainment, right? Like a little bit of that like sort of style that is unique to your brand and your tone of voice. But that piece that is just sort of like cool. You've drawn them in with this anthem. Now they want to learn more about what it is that you actually do. So those, of course, can come in multiple shapes and sizes across industries and verticals, and product or solution sets, right? But just like that's probably the most common tool in your toolkit. And then the endorsement is that customer story, that customer testimonial, that case study, right? That really helps express where you exist and with whom, right? So really that best opportunity to infuse trust through validation of that third party, that customer, right? That's like your best opportunity for storytelling and aligning of sets of values that your customers embody with your brand, right? So in that quick summary, that trifecta: anthem, explainer, endorsement, helps you differentiate, demonstrate, and validate your offering in the eyes of your audience.
Ooh, I love the anthem. I don't know why I can't get maybe it's because I'm from Detroit, but I'm starting to hear like all the big popular rock songs for which anthem would be behind my anthem video. But
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, synonymous with that mission video, that enterprise story, right? Like, I think that's probably, an early challenge for folks who don't know where to begin, is that, like, the terminology is kind of all, like, overlapping and synonymous across the board, so just being really, intentional with, like, the purpose of each of these pieces, that why, like, you're doing it because you wanna differentiate yourself. The what, cool, you're demonstrating what it is that you're offering, and then that who, and that validation using your customer's voice, super powerful.
oof. So for a business owner, entrepreneur, for someone who's brand ambassador, it's really important then to have a great deep understanding of why you exist as a company. I run into a lot of leaders that, sometimes we all do. We struggle with that. Well, I think I do this. I think I do that. I'm not quite sure. And so this process can, definitely help us. How important is it to have that strategy, that kind of mission and stuff down? Does it help those videos? Is it kind of just a big process that you'll kind of figure it out as you go?
Yeah, I mean, communicating in any way is a journey, right? You're gonna get that feedback loop in some way, shape, or form. But I've been at this for whatever 15, 20 years now. It's like that specificity in that goal and that strategy of each of these pieces produces a journey at the end of the day, which is the thing you need to do, right? It's like, cool, you sell that click, and now you want to keep these potential buyers like invested in learning more about you to help them make better decisions, right? So the more sort of storytelling and leading with video, the preferred medium, across your ecosystem, that regular sort of cadence and drumbeat, like that's all those touch points, is an opportunity to build trust and a sense of belief, and then ideally to that conversion, which is what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, right? But it is like speaking at that human level, going back to conversation. So meeting your audience that is a human being at the end of the day on the other side of this, right? And that preferred medium to help them make decisions on their own accord, that was in it for me, it's huge.
Wow. Wow. What are some of the biggest mistakes we make as we're attempting, to put some of these stories together on video?
Yeah, it is. It's challenging because it's so complex, and the biggest hiccup or misstep early for folks who are like, eh, getting into the craft itself, is trying to have it do too much, right? Like if you take any one of those things that I described earlier, your why, your what, and for who, right? And like if you try to smash all those together, like the messaging that's really fuzzy, it's bloated, it's becomes way too long, therefore it doesn't like engage as well on these sites. It's answering too many questions at once. Your audience is overwhelmed, right? So leading with that clarity and intention to build the stepping stones of a journey is like the best thing you can do. So with that, always considering what does my audience really need in this moment to help move them further along in their journey with us, right? So taking that pause, that caution, like I know there's politics involved inside of a business. There's leadership that's coming down with these directives, or you're the leader and you're like, well, I'm trying to serve everybody at the same time. And it's like, just slow down. Like one step at a time will really make build that momentum you're trying to garner along the way, right? So taking stock, taking strategy, considering your audience, talking to customers, talking to your sales reps to understand like what it is they're inferring from prospects and leads and customers, right? So it just sort of really helps you put yourself in your audience's shoes early, often, and always.
Ooh, ooh. Uh, and what gold that is for leaders across all industries. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many years that I didn't put the audience first, and it's just amazing if we continue thinking about audience first. What I mean just happens, and just even what you said, talking about trying to ask those great questions. What have you learned about the question asking ability? And if yours has grown over the years, does it help make your storytelling better if you can ask better questions? Would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's an interesting one because it's like as like to begin a story, you have to ask questions, right? You can't just sort of like like launch in. You have to had some sort of an experience. You're trying to understand a pain that was resolved in a beneficial way for everybody, right? So like as the creatives that we are, like we kind of we approach each of our client engagements like sort of perfectly ignorant. Like, yeah, of course, like we know the industry, we know the sector that they're in, the goals they're trying to accomplish. Like, it's not like totally blank slate, but it is that opportunity to ask like sort of dumb questions to help solicit and draw deeper down the layers of the onion of like, well, what is the root of this thing that we're actually trying to solve, right? So being a great question asker and interviewer in that way is like such a profound skill set you can carry with you, right? To be that proactive listener to really like understand the why behind the why, is really huge. Did I answer your question?
That's yeah, you
Okay.
absolutely did because you went right at to the heart of it. I don't know for whatever reason, some Mad Men reels are starting to pop up in my feed lately, and I was just thinking about that. Actually, I saw a reel this morning where a company was getting ready to dismiss John Hamm and his team, and John, turns to the camera and he asks that pointed question, and everybody paused. It was like, okay, so we're able to, kind of keep going. But I think sometimes the thought out there for maybe non-creative people is creatives like yourself. They just kind of sit in a room and have music going, and there's no strategy behind it. And I love that you're walking us through, like, no, yeah, there's
There's tons of vulnerability, lots of
yes,
it. And like, it just comes with it's just a way of being, right? And therefore you're like you're okay with it. So like when we partner with the brand, like we're always happy to be that sounding board, right? Like that like when you've been inside of a brand for so long, like there's so many pressures, mostly internally, but also externally towards like, whatever the next thing is in your calendar cycle, right? To have someone come in and like gently disrupt that and like ask a pointed question like in a different way is really beneficial for everybody in the room, right? But like as a creatives, you're very just I don't know, you're just more apt to ask those questions and not be sort of fearful or like vulnerable is a word I like to use, right? Because it tends to like dig at and unearth like the real answer that everybody aspires to, right? And that just it just helps you understand like the dynamicism at play and like the, get more direct towards the goals that the audience really needs. And then you just take craft. You go ham on that, right? Like, what are the choice words? What is the right approach visually? Like, what is the sort of artistry here that is unique and the reasons for it? Like, how do we approach this customer story to make them the hero that they really are, right? And so it's that care that is it's early and I keep saying early and often, but it's true, right? So just like a partnership in this way as a creative is just invaluable to everybody.
Ooh, I love that. You just hit on something I was going to ask you too about. Seems like everywhere you turn, people are talking about, just be your true, authentic self on video. And so it seems like forever it was like, videos had to be, so perfect. And now you see people just, opening up their camera and talking.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, especially as we're creating videos for our brand, trying to reach our customers? What's the balance there?
Yeah, I mean, the shortest answer is like it's all good. But the challenge is just understanding like where you're first meeting your prospective customer, right? And how are you pulling them through, building trust, building that belief system, making them allowing them affording them the opportunity to make a decision to choose you. That's really what you want. And then how you nurture that? How do you make them advocates? It's called a journey for a reason. You know what I mean? So taking care of that, and so meeting your audience with the right amount of production value, the right amount of therefore care is really kind of paramount, right? It's like first impressions matter. So we always are encouraging the most amount of investment that you can at the top of the funnel, and it has like an inverse the further down you go, where it's like when they're inside your four walls, they just want to know more about like you and how you're serving them and the day to day, and like that's where things like events and culture and people and that like employer branding and that communication from the CEO is like really helpful. But that's like that is bottom of the funnel stuff or beyond. Like that's like nurturing and retention at that point, right? So this middle of the funnel is like really paramount to consider the best strategy, the right amount of investment, the right amount of care to ensure that your buyer is along with you for the journey.
Boy, I love that. Okay, let's pivot for a second to our everyday listener who's listening and they're just kind of going, okay, how do I show up more, on social
Yeah.
media with video, where how do I even know if I should start or not? Where should I start?
Yeah, I mean, just start is the shortest answer to
Yeah.
that. But what I mean by that is like whether it's like pandemic infused or enforced or whatever, but like we've all become reasonably comfortable talking to like the little green dot on our computer, right? And like having a discourse in this way. So if you're at like the humblest beginnings, it's like talking to a trusted person, partner, or someone inside your four walls, like to like kind of be like interviewed in a way, right? Is like such an easy, approachable way to start like working through your working your positioning and messaging in the communication medium, right? And getting that really locked and like getting your posture and your presentation and your enthusiasm like really dialed, right? It's like it's not quite like speech like a level of like a speech or anything, but just sort of like being comfortable in this way is such a huge advantage. And I don't think enough people take advantage of it, right? Like especially like in when you look at your competitors. So encourage that. For us, like we do these like content jams, we call them, where it's like every couple weeks for a solid like 90 minutes, 2 hours. Like we talk through the, what are the challenges that customers are regularly facing, the sort of state of the industry stuff, like things that are sort of like personal that we've come across in the last couple weeks, and recording all of that is really huge and beneficial and helps our like the sort of like content engine that's happening out there. But then it also just helps us infuse like mission and values, and to help us build on the higher the funnel, higher up the funnel pieces of work we want to like really produce in a slick way with like motion design and production and et cetera. So my point is, long story, very long answer is just like, just starting to be comfortable in producing in the medium, understanding like how you can cut up and slice and dice and add captions and music and just like the layers of complexity that are part of the craft, right? And then you'll certainly have a better appreciation when somebody comes in with a real camera and real lights and real production value. Be like, wow, like these people are, they really care about
Yes.
like putting us in our best light. You know what I mean? So the other side of that is just like we love working with brands that have sort of it's not like bought into the medium because that's not accurate, but that like advocacy from leadership for the medium is a huge benefit to everybody because everybody's like becomes very comfortable in approaching leveraging the tools that they have on their devices, right, to like become the ambassadors of your business, you know? So I think just that founder first mentality is hugely helpful, or like that leader first mentality is hugely helpful. And people are like, oh, well, if they're doing, I would love to participate too, you know? And like your SMEs, your customers, like everybody is just like along for the ride.
I love that. I love that. Go back for a second. You talked about we talked about just start, start kind of moving
Mhm.
forward. Uh, what do you find for some leaders? The when we go to post, even if it's a short, we want to just post something, to our page. Say we're just posting to LinkedIn. How do we, do you recommend, typing out something we want to do? Do you recommend, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to press record and just go for it. What do you think about that kind of structure?
I think it's a mix of both. Having a formal sort of like content strategy or overall messaging strategy, like once a month or once a quarter, is really helpful just to make sure your eyes are on your sort of North Star overall. But there's so much that happens in our day to day that like most of my little bits of storytelling are in conversations with customers or clients or prospects or my team. You know what I mean? So those like little nuggets of the day help humanize like the moment that we're all sort of living in, you know? So all those are prime for storytelling and showing up, authentically on these channels, right? For me, it's LinkedIn, and so, but I also just caution that just like posting for posting's sake or to like feed the algorithm or like whatever, like that's not a strategy. That's just like feeding into the beast of noise, you know what I mean? So I think it's like taking the right amount of care, assuring you're making strides towards your North Star, and showcasing moments and bits of gold that you experience is huge, right? And a lot of this that I'm talking about is that sort of nurture state, like uh I call it my like visibility strategy, right? So just like making sure that we're showing up with value on behalf, like leading audience first, right? So all of that is really important. It's just you got to slow down sometimes and just make
Yeah.
sure you're doing it for the right reasons, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll never forget years ago, I'm watching the Tom Cruise movie, or maybe the Will Smith. I'm trying to remember which one, Minority Report, or I'm trying to remember the Will Smith one with the AI, or, the
Yeah, yeah,
robots or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
iRobot.
And here we are, like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, like we're seeing, more and more stuff. Uh, will AI replace, those late nights where you're sitting, being creative, storyboarding stuff out? Or will it just continue to amplify it if it's used the right way?
I don't think it's ever going to cut it out because it's coming from a source of truth that is like intrinsically yours and your sense of
Yep.
purpose and
Yep.
passion. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, it can provide sort of numerous shortcuts, right? So, for us, it's things like transcription and like helping, put closed captioning that's branded and animated on, and so like all that is nets out to speed, right? So that like that's an advantage for sure. But the overall caution is like how many shortcuts until you're just like chipping away at trust? You know what I mean? Like shortcuts do not equal trust building, right? So you just got to be like super cautious to how you're leveraging these types of tools and what you're again, I keep going back to audience because it's true. It's like what do they need to assure that you're in trust lock with them, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's pretty profound. Uh, yeah. That is powerful. What do you think about I was at a conference in the fall. One of the speakers is a CEO of a company called I can't remember what the company's called, but they create basically faceless videos. And so there's this whole wave, right, where you could have a YouTube channel and it's just faceless
Yeah.
videos. You're not even a part of it. You just put into the thing, want to create a video about, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, and then this animation comes through and, you're just posting all this stuff. I'll save my thought, but I would until after you respond. But
Yeah, I mean, the shortest answer is to each their own, right? Like for us, it's about impact, like how do we make sure that we're making the most impactful work that we can that propels a business forward, a professional in their career ambitions forward, right? Like an industry forward. So I think most people, and certainly I'm sure the entirety of your audience, like they're getting out of the bed in the morning for like the right reasons of like creating an impact in the world in the right ways. What you just described, I don't think it aligns with that at all. That's just like a very different sort of business model of like, cool, you're doing like the history of whatever, and like there's certainly benefit to an audience if they don't know about a certain subject or something, and it's like they need to start somewhere on whatever their sort of their archive dive is. But it's also like that is truly just noise, right? Because a lot of this exists elsewhere too. So yeah, it's that Venn diagram of like intention and empathy and sense of purpose. So I think that's where I stand. But what do you say?
oh, well, I keep seeing these posts about, like another channel with 1,000 subscribers and faceless video, and I'm like, who's watching him? Because
Yeah,
I have no desire. Like, I come to your
desire.
channel because I'm like, I want to learn from you. You know. Anyways,
Yeah,
it's
and
just weird to me.
I
Yeah.
I think that's it. Like as leaders, y- you have to be at the front, right? So like you're supposed to be creating a sense of like sort of change, right? Like an impact. And a lot of what you described is just sort of recycling and recycling is great. Don't get me wrong. I just mean like in that it's not new or novel. It's regurgitation. I think would be the better word. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's interesting. Okay, last question. So talk to the leader for a second who is every week they're just on an endless number of Zooms or WebExes or team meetings. Either they're leading them, they're just a part of them. Uh, for people who those everyday leaders who are on a lot of those meetings, any not that we can like add too much, but just there is an art form to showing up on video to where you seem engaged, you seem like you want to be there. Any thoughts to the leader to help them just kind of show up, a little bit more to those videos?
A shot of espresso tends to be a good start. Uh, yeah, no,
Yes.
I mean, I think some of it, the quickest step back is like, are you saying the same message a lot of the time, right? That's a moment to be like, maybe this should be a really polished recording, right? Like, because I can't be in all of the places all the time, and like this can support what we're trying to do. So, like onboarding is a great way to do that, right? It's like, while you would love to interface with every employee that's ever hired ever, it's like there's a reality that like you can't. Like you only have so many hands and so many hours in the day. But to show up with that enthusiasm and that posture and that presence in video, again, it's as close to conversation as you can get, right? In this way. So like having that type of piece is really powerful. So my point is like anytime you find yourself saying the same type of message again and again, that's a good inflection point to consider should we record this and make this part of whatever the journey is, right? But to more directly answer your question, like we're talking all the time. So I think it's just like watching yourself back. I hate doing it personally, but I know it's really important to understand like what's my eye line? What's my lighting? Like what's how like even right now, I'm not completing a very good sentence, just sort of like how do I make sure I'm taking the right pauses and just being engaging in the way that I'm showing up. So anyway, I think it's never going to be perfect, and I'm totally cool with that. I think it's just, you get sharper, that 1% better, like time over time. So,
I love that. Is there a recent marketing video from a company that you've seen that just, made you sit up straight, wowed you?
oh gosh, it's so funny. I watch. I mean, I love our team loves making videos, and we therefore watch like so many videos. I think the piece of advertising, so, like, not marketing, but the advertising that I saw today was the NBA Finals, piece, so it's, like, this 90-second, like, pretty anthemic piece where they juxtapose, like, real life people and, of course, some celebrities against, like, these iconic moments in sport in basketball history, right? And sort of the, like, culture mimicking the sport and just sort of the overall, like, the big sort of like vibe of the NBA finals, right? And so that was like, oh, I got like minor goosebumps. So those are always really cool, right? Like making the most of a moment to like make that impression huge. What about you?
I'm at a place with my speaking and business where we're trying to create a new kind of speaker demo reel, and I want it
Yep.
to be different because everybody's speaker demo reels are the same. Bob Jones speaks about, and so trying to figure out how to create something that's maybe, and I know there's nothing new under the sun, but at least a little bit more unique for event planners, for kind of the people that I'm aiming
Yeah.
to, that kind of create some of those kind of things. So
I
this,
mean,
yeah.
that I was just say that that's innovation, like by definition, right? So I think that's tremendous, like you'll go through this sort of mess of discovery and understanding like what's the merits of this thing, and you'll come out the other side the better. It's just like the courage to go through the messy middle,
Yeah,
is a big thing.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing. You've given me like literally, uh, I could plunk this into whatever AI and have it spit out the amazing one-liners, because there are so many of them. You just kind of gave us such great gold. I appreciate that. Before I let you go, let me ask you some rapid fire questions. We're creating this online communicators library where our listeners can go and just get new ideas. And so, is there a speaker? Is there somebody that you regularly hear or have heard that has just stuck with you, that you go, "Oh yeah, you gotta listen to them or listen to their talk," or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Jay Acunzo, for a couple reasons. One is he lives basically down the street from me, so we got to produce a pretty cool anthem video for his business last year, which I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, I mean, his entire like it's his entire ecosystem is about resonance over reach, right? Like showing up to be their favorite versus the best, right? So it's sort of this like juxtaposition of being a communicator, right, and just making sure you're doing it for the right reasons, is really huge. So coincidentally, I'm like taking one of his speaker courses right now. I'm actually a little behind on my homework. Don't tell him, but yeah. So that he's a go to, and written a few books, and his speeches are he does like small group, but also big stages
Yeah,
in front of like thousands of people. So yeah,
I
very
love it.
versatile.
I love it. Okay, if you're a podcast listener, not everybody is, but if you are, is there one that's either guilty pleasure or development that you're like, "Ah, you gotta check out this podcast"?
Yeah, guilty pleasure is Smartless. Those guys are hilarious, and they sometimes are completely unhinged. But it's a funny hour to listen to. Um, gosh, I don't want to take too much time, but I have a lot of podcasts on my thing here. It's all right. I won't bore you with it, but a lot of the ones that are creative, right? Creative and business that kind of like overlap. So those I usually listen to podcasts when I just like need a break from my own, just sort of like headspace, right? Like something that could sort of ground me back in a better sense of like purpose and like the reason to show up, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Versus
I
like
love that.
how to squeeze the most ROI out of whatever, you know what I mean? Like those
Right.
aren't for me. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
usually just like a nice reset, I guess.
I love that. Last one, you run into a neighbor. They're about to go to a desert island. They can only take one book. Is there a book that you just say, "Oh, you have to take this one"?
Oh, I'm looking at my bookshelf right here. I mean, Rick Rubin's The Creative Act is awesome. And I think the more practical one I share with people all the time is Anne Handley's Everybody Writes. You know, it's just sort of a really helpful breakdown of like sort of getting out of your own way when it comes to being a writer, you know, in whatever sort of space you're in. For her, it's marketing. So it's
Yep.
just a really helpful breakdown.
Oh, I love that. Where's the best place? We'll put this in the show notes, in our Facebook group, and our email, all that kind of stuff. But where's the best place our listeners can find you, read more about you, follow along your journey?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. That's really kind of the only place I am day to day. And then our website is pennant.video or pennantvideo.com. Both go to the same place. There, your audience can find an ungated playbook that we have. It's called Funnel Focused, and it's sort of it helps sort of package up a lot of what we talked about today of just like how to strategize video marketing on behalf of your brand and your business and in that buyer's journey, right? So that's just a little pop-up. You're welcome to download that. And then yeah, I'm at tim@pennantvideo.com is my email.
Amazing. Amazing. Tim, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. Appreciate your heart and for teaching us and just being so generous with your thoughts. Thanks again for being on the podcast.
My total pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Speak with People podcast. It means the world to us when you share this episode. Thanks for liking, subscribing, or following the podcast. That really does help the podcast get into more ears and into more leaders listening. Also, don't forget, we have two exciting resources for you. The first is go to Facebook and join the speakers group. This is a community designed for leaders who want to grow their communication skills. Also, go to speakwithpeople.com/skills library to access the Communication Skills Library. It is an online resource chock filled with resources that will inspire you and transform you and grow your communication skills. Thanks again for being a part of the listening community. We cannot wait for the next episode.